NFL playoff graphic. And Josh, your quick summary of what your thoughts are on the
Yes.
game, and if you want to talk about if you had a favorite commercial, and then obviously I want to get your quick thoughts on the halftime spectacular since you are a musician yourself. But we'll start off with the game. What were your thoughts?
I was actually quite surprised at how many touchdowns each team scored, and how they did it. There were a lot of plays that I saw, especially from the Eagles. They connected passes that should not have been completed. There were a couple points where he was throwing into 2 or 3 defenders, and the ball went through the other guy's hand. I don't know how they connected those, but it was a very high scoring game, at least for me. I did not expect both of the teams to be in the high 30s by the time it was done. I think the offense on both teams really did an incredible job. I was surprised at some of the touchdown runs and how open people were. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes.
On both teams. But it was that made it for a very entertaining game. And so I was really excited about that, because let's be honest, there are some Super Bowls where you just there's 1 or 2 touchdowns, or one team is just completely blowing out the other. This was a really nice back and forth, and I really appreciaed that up until the end.
Yeah, I did too. Some people were a little mad about the ending, but I knew. So some people might not know this, but Andy Reid was the coach of the Eagles for a long time, coached them to 10 plus playoff victories. And then he also has now coached Kansas City to 10 plus playoff victories. He's the only coach in NFL history to do that with 2 franchises, as well as both conferences, right? So he's very cerebral. One of the things that was a knock on him was bad clock management early on in his career. And so, of course, he's going to take the slow, grinded out approach and make sure that he doesn't leave the Eagles with any time to make a comeback. Because we saw the Eagles were able to move offensively, less so in the second half. But, you don't want to give them too much time for sure. And a lot of people were mad. They're like, oh, what a boring way to end a very exciting football game. I said, well, if you're a football purist, it's the right move. But what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's fully premeditated for sure.
Yeah. So it's not the most exciting for fans. I get it, but he wants to win the game. He doesn't really, in that moment, care if it's the most exciting for fans.
I was just gonna say, and not to get into the politics of football, but I appreciate the fact that it wasn't we're going to try and pass the ball when we have beast mode right beside us and we're 1 into the end zone. I appreciate that they weren't trying to make it something that it didn't have to be. They had a job to do. They went in there, they understood the assignment, and they completed the game. That was.
And there was a questionable call at the end, but even the player said he tugged him, and the refs did, the coach did. But, of course, Eagles fans want to make excuses. I have a lot of family that are Eagles fans and won't talk too much trash today, but I am not necessarily heartbroken that they lost. And I was rooting for Mahomes, and that's a great story over there. And
sure.
just a lot of great stories. We talked about it last week, but for the sake of time with you, I will move on to the second part of the question. Did you have a favorite commercial?
Yes, the Dave Grohl Canadian Club whiskey commercial was probably the best thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
That was unbelievable.
For people that are listening, they might not know Josh is from Toronto, so that makes a lot of sense that would be great. And it's great. I mean, I'm actually wearing a Foo Fighters shirt right now, so it's very fitting.
There you go.
And Dave Grohl, people know, is one of my favorite people in the entire world, which is, I get a lot of my look from him. I appreciated the humor, and that was definitely one of my favorites as well. And then the last question I have for you is the halftime show. It was very interesting. I don't want to say controversial, but there was a lot of split decision on it. A lot of people were like, oh, it's boring. Oh, she killed it. Oh, it's, a lot of people online, talking about the baby announcement, and it's got to be one of the most Googled things in like history, like right in that moment. Like, is she pregnant? Because everyone I know immediately grabbed their phone and like was like looking at the thing and were trying to decide if she was. And so I think it's the biggest baby reveal in history. I'm gonna go with that. But I
Absolutely.
thought she did well, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't the most exciting one. I was surprised that there was no special guests. But overall, I thought it was good. And she's so pregnant and she's way up in the air. What are you expecting her to do? I don't know. But Josh, what were some of your thoughts on the halftime show?
I'm kind of on that fence, like on that side of it as well. I thought it was a great performance. I I kind of got to a point, like I'm a purist as far as a lot of the music and like the live shows that I like watching. Like I like watching bands be bands. You know what I mean? So Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, when they did the halftime show and they were up there playing and doing, having fun and making it entertaining, but doing the band thing, I loved the simplicity of it, because in that simplicity, they were able to bring everybody together and have a good time. And don't get me wrong, the fireworks and the coming out of the stage and the doing the whole, like, all of that stuff is incredible and takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of like moving pieces working in tandem. And I think that's great. But I think we got to a point where like you had a lot going on in some of those shows. There were like 17 different groups of dancers dressed in different costumes. There were 7 or 8 costume changes. And like I think Rihanna in a very cool way was able to bridge that gap between like, we can still have pop music and have one of the biggest names in pop music to date. Like, she's a legend. And we can still make the show simple enough that it's a show and it's not 3 shows that we're cramming together,
Mhm.
but we can still make it good. And I thought that was really cool. There wasn't like an elaborate costume change 7 times. There wasn't like there were dancers, but it was like you had like
She was
2
the focus
different,
the whole time,
yeah, it was
versus it
her
being,
show.
yeah, versus there being like drones and like, crazy dance numbers
Yeah, and
and
I kind
guest
of liked
stars.
that. I
Yeah.
kind of liked that she didn't have a guest star. She was like, "No, I'm doing the halftime show. I'm gonna do the halftime show." Like,
Does
this
anyone
is,
ever do that though? I feel like there's always a guest. I can't think of a time that there
I
hasn't
don't
been
think
something.
Springsteen had a guest. I could be wrong, but I don't think
Yeah.
he did. I don't think Petty did.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's a
like
little
the,
different when there's bands. I feel like then it's kind
yeah,
of like, yeah.
like the guests are cool. Don't get me wrong. I think it's really neat when you like give somebody that nod and invite them
I
up
was
on
waiting for Jay-Z
stage.
to come out. He was there and he's the one who started with Umbrella, right? So in
That's
some
true.
ways, he gave her big, break, like she's phenomenal and she's been gone on and done a million things since then.
For
But like
sure.
if you want to talk about where she started, right? That video and Umbrella and that whole thing was what catapulted her into, her current fame. So
For sure.
I that's the one I was guessing, if I was, making a
Yeah.
prediction.
I think
Um
for me, I would have loved if the special guest was Lonely Island
mm,
and they did like a Shy Rodney thing. I
right.
thought that would have been phenomenal.
That would have
Like,
been
that would
good.
have been great.
Yeah, the one thing that they did. Yeah, so I mean, overall, I thought it was good, but was it the best halftime show? No, but it was not as bad as people were making it out to be.
I
It
thought it
was
was
fun.
great. Like, it did what it was supposed to do.
My son liked it, mostly because people probably don't know this, but play lullabies in his room on Sonos every night, and whose lullabies do I play for the last 2 years or 3 years of his life is Rihanna. There's a album of Rihanna songs lullabied, and literally since 1 years old, so for the last 3 years, he's listened to Rihanna, not realizing it's Rihanna. He calls it nappy music, and like, but like, so I was like playing like, hey, it's this song from your playlist, and I'd play him like the lullaby version versus the real one, and
Oh, that's cool.
so he was into it because he'd actually kind of heard of her, so to speak, before.
Right.
So it got his approval. So that's all that I really cared about.
It's
But
terrific.
Josh, any final thoughts before we let you go? I really appreciate all of your time. We've taken like an hour. We planned for a 30-minute segment,
great.
but it was a lot of fun.
I really appreciate you having me on, Robbie. And just, everybody in the chat, I can't stress enough that it's a team effort. This entire thing is a team effort, and it wouldn't be possible to do without all of the different people that we have who are donating their time, donating their talents, and offering to sub in and help out wherever they can. And I go back to, if you were here before when I was telling the story, that and the story, that's awesome. If you don't know the story, Robbie has been a part of the organizing crew for this since like the beginning of this event. And when we were trying to figure out a way that we could bring all of the streamers together before we had the t-shirts, I went to Robbie because I knew he did graphic design, and I said, can you make an emote for us? And we are still using that emote, and the streamers actually consistently ask us, do you have that? Can we use that? And so it's really about all of these, we couldn't have done it without Robbie. And Robbie's been going into other people's streams and asking them, hey, we're doing this charity event, just a raid suggestion. Let me know if you want to come and join us. That kind of support and that kind of help in this process has been incredible, because there's a lot of people doing things behind the scenes that, most of you guys will know with your mods on a regular basis that people don't realize is going into the event and going into each of the streams. But if it wasn't for, incredibly generous people like Robbie, this streamathon wouldn't happen, and it wouldn't be half of what it is. So Robbie, on behalf of all of us, thank you.
I want to thank a lot of the mods are actually in chat right now. Carly, mods
there
for a lot
go.
of people. She was, solo modding for KR during some big raids yesterday. And,
that's awesome.
Andy, was willing to jump in, if we needed him, and he raided in. And I know that Carly is, I think, planning to raid in tomorrow with her Valentine's Day stream.
That's lovely.
And, so I think it's really cool that so many of it, Tina French, is modding today. She's going to be
modding, I saw Tina in a bunch of streams.
Tomorrow, and so I think that that's really great, and it's such a wonderful community, and I really hope that people are able to come out for Valentine's Day. I'm going to try to get this audio podcast up tonight so people can be listening to it tomorrow, and hopefully be able to jump in as well, or if you're over on Facebook. And Josh has actually been doing a great job of putting a lot of the channels on his channel, so if people are looking for where to look for it, you can definitely check that out. I'm going to do Command Josh here. Cheers, it's Robbie. And oops, let me see. There you go. And then so it's Josh Taerk Music, Twitch.tv, Josh Taerk Music. If you want to find his channel, but the donation links are also on the Facebook one, and so you can find out from the donation links. There's also the video is playing from the live streams, and so you could find it that way too. So I really appreciate, Josh, your time for coming on. I'm looking forward to raiding into this stream in a little bit myself, and I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and I will see you on the other side of the camera tomorrow.
Absolutely, Robbie. Thank you very much for having me, and y'all, thank you very much for tuning in.
Yes, thank you guys so much. And with that, we're going to bring in my other roundtable, DC's People's Champ, and Tim as well. And Champ, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I told you, they have more experience in these type of games. So I had a feeling they was going to pull it out, but I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so.
We both did, right? We both talked about how that experience is going to help them come through in the end. And I just think that was so key, because they've been down and out before in the Super Bowl and come back and won. They've also been in a different scenario where they've lost. So they've seen it from both scenarios. And, got Andy Reid there, who's a great coach, arguably now one of the greatest coaches in history. Now that he's won, 2. He potentially could keep on going and making this a dynasty. But I think he's solidified himself as one of the best coaches of all time, regardless now. I know he's not going to be Bill Belichick with all those rings, but, 100 wins in the NFL is nothing to be scoffed at. To get 10 plus playoff victories in 2 different conferences, nothing to be scoffed at. To go to as many Super Bowls as he has, go to 4 straight conference championships in 2 different conferences. I mean, and now to have the 2 rings, I think I think if he just had 1, there's some doubters there, right? For the same reason why I really hope Ovechkin gets a 2nd ring, just because I think that would help. But it was just really amazing. But Tim, I'm gonna bring you in right now, as Champ is glitching out
How's
on
it
my
going?
screen right now. I'm doing well. Okay, there he is. Champ. It was becoming crazy on my screen over there for a second, so I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. But Tim, what were some of your thoughts on this?
I was at a house party with a Eagles fan host, and he was going crazy at the end. So it was kind of awkward because his girlfriend was a big Giants fan, and she was taunting him like in her Eli Manning jersey as they lost.
Oh,
And I was like,
no.
man, you guys have a funny relationship. But it was awkward when I left, but it was also funny.
I know. We talked about you going to that situation and how it could get a little awkward. So
Yeah, she wasn't nice at all about it. And he was yelling and pretty drunk by the end. But, I mean, that's Philly for you. It was funny. He had a friend who said she was flying into Philadelphia at 10 p.m. last night, like from some other city. And he was like, there's not going to be an airport, win or lose, in Philadelphia. Like, you realize at 10 o'clock, it's just going to be on fire no matter what. So I don't know if she made it, but
I didn't hear about too much rioting. I expected more, actually. At least,
that's good. Yeah.
At least
I was worried for them.
I don't know. I didn't look into it too much, but it it wasn't blowing up my feed either. So
it would have made the news. People on poles, trees, just they go nuts. They go hard. So I'm glad the city is still intact. But yeah, I mean, Andy Reid. One thing too, I wonder if KC's offensive coordinator will leave and maybe go to Baltimore or Washington. So I think the Chiefs will be a pretty different team next year, but they could definitely be a dynasty because Mahomes is so young and they're going to be good for a while. So you got to watch out for them.
For sure. Champ, talk a little bit about how they thought that by losing their best wide receiver, that Kansas City was supposed to be not good this year, and how Mahomes was able to win MVP in both again. Just talk a little bit about that. I'm going to set something up behind here, but talk about that for a bit.
Right. So first off, about Pat Mahomes, Mahomes became the first player since Kurt Warner, who, by the way, is a Hall of Famer, back in 1999 to win both the NFL regular season and Super Bowl MVP in the same season. And I mean, what else can you say about this young man and what he's done this season? And he did it all especially in this game with a high ankle sprain, which got re-aggravated during this game. And he still managed to go out there, throw 3 touchdowns, run for about almost 50 yards, and still play just with such poise and composure. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of experts thought that KC was going to be not very good offensively without Hill being there. They thought that, but turns out, Travis Kelce just turned up this season, and Juju Smith-Schuster, who was very, very good in Pittsburgh, was also pretty good this season for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, I mean, offensively, they were fine. Then you have a pretty solid running game as well. I mean, they had all the components that they needed to make this run, and they turned that run into their second Super Bowl in the last 4 seasons, which is amazing to think about. I mean, in a league where in the last 10 years, it's been so much parity in the NFL, for the Kansas City Chiefs to win their second Super Bowl in the last 4 years, it's amazing to think about. And it all starts with the fact that you have a coach at the helm who's considered one of the greatest coaches in all of the NFL, and Andy Reid, who there was, even before this game started, there was question about what his future is going to be with KC. Is he going to hang it up after this one? But then he kind of quelled those rumors and said, nah, I'm going to hang around for a little while longer. And I think Andy Reid, I don't think he's going to retire until he gets at least 1 or 2 more rings. and then he'll retire. That's my thought about it. He won't retire until he gets 1 or 2 more Super Bowl rings, and then he'll be like, you know what? All right, I'm out. But
yeah, because it's different for a coach than it is, for a player.
They can go long.
They can go a lot longer, and
especially now with health. Health, people live longer. They can definitely go into their 70s for sure. And I also think Kansas City was under the radar a little bit this year in the AFC, because I think what happened with the AFC was people anointed Buffalo and they anointed Cincinnati, which makes sense. They're good teams. But for the second half of the year, you heard all about Buffalo because they were playing well, and obviously Hamlin took a lot of oxygen up from the league. And then Cincinnati had that really long winning streak for like 10 games the second half of the year, and they were the hot team. And a lot of people thought they were going to go and win the AFC Championship again in Kansas City because of Mahomes' injury. So you're right. I mean, it wasn't just Hill leaving. It was kind of this whole season, everybody knew they were good, but thought maybe they're not even in the top 2 in the AFC. And they just kind of outlasted people despite the Mahomes injury. And I was impressed with him yesterday too, because he had that one long scramble for like 20 yards, but he was hobbling. So I think they shot him up with a lot of painkillers, because like he was still running pretty well, but you could tell he was in a lot of pain. So he just gutted it out. But yeah, I mean, you can't count them out. I think no matter who's in their system, they'll have a good running back. So they're always going to be explosive.
Yeah, it was just a really impressive effort. I just thought a methodical comeback. And I think that having that extra long halftime really helped them, and I think that it's something that they've been to recently. I know that the Eagles have won a Super Bowl recently too, but a lot of different personnel, in this situation, the same coaching staff and the same, quarterback who's been there. And I think that they really planned it up well. And it was just a really impressive comeback, and I was really excited to see it. Just want to talk quickly about the other aspects of the game. Did either of you guys have a commercial that stood out to you that you liked, or on the counter side, if there was one that you hated? But I will. We'll start with the one that you like. Good. Ken, do you have both in your mind?
I didn't have one that I hated, but I had 2 of them that I liked.
Okay, let's hear the 2 that you liked.
Okay, the first one that I liked was the one for the Fox Nation late night show. And the only reason why I like this one is because it had a wrestler in it. Current NWA World's Heavyweight Champion Taerk, who made appearances on Fox Nation in very controversial fashion with what he has to say and his views. He was on there with the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, the 10 pounds of gold. And it's funny because the night before, he actually defended that championship against Matt Cardona at NWA's recent pay-per-view. So it was really good to see that. The other one that I really liked, it was close between these. It was close, but I would have to say the one with John Travolta with T-Mobile, that was really good. I almost didn't recognize John Travolta for a minute, and so I looked really closely. I was like, holy fuck, that's John Travolta and stuff. So I was like, that's really cool. So those are the 2 that I like. I didn't have one that I particularly didn't like. They were all fairly decent, but those are the 2 that stood out to me.
What do you think about the rabbit holes? Those rabbits taking people and jumping down the holes, and like that 2B one? Did you see that one? It was creepy.
I don't remember that one. That might have played. I'm trying to think. When did that play? Because I know that when it went to halftime, I left my apartment to go to the store. So there were probably commercials that played during it that I probably missed.
Yeah, it was very creepy. I don't know what they were trying to do, but it definitely stuck out to me as one. So Tim, what was the one that you liked and the one that you hated?
I love the Dunkin' Donuts one with Affleck, just because I think it's hilarious that it's so big in Boston, and I like that Saturday Night Live skits that they do about it. So I thought that was hilarious that he was like doing the drive-through. I liked the commercials that Ken said too. There were a lot of good ones, but I hated the Gronk one, like the field goal thing. I did not get that was like a huge letdown. I mean, they were playing that up and then he like missed a short field goal and that was it. I don't really get why that was a big thing. Also the John Travolta commercial was ruined for me because these two drunk people at the party were arguing about how long he was bald. And so I couldn't hear it because they were like shouting, like, he's been bald for 3 years. No, 7 years. So, but yeah, like that, he looked different. So that was like the main thing about that commercial.
Right.
But it was a good time. A lot of good ones.
Yeah. And then I'll get your quick thoughts on the halftime performance. Did you love it, hate it, indifferent? What are your thoughts? I'll start off. Ken, you said you went out for that part?
No. I actually came back just in time for like, I think I missed like the first 5 minutes of Rihanna's performance. I managed to get back just in time for most of it. Yeah, it was a pretty long performance. I actually like, and here's my thing. After they kind of like watered it down after the Janet Jackson incident several years ago, I kind of like when it came down to like halftime shows, I would usually like not even be in there. I would like go somewhere and like not even watch it. But I wanted to watch this one since it was Rihanna's first performance like in a while, and I kind of enjoyed it. It was actually nice. There were a couple songs that came on, like when she did the chorus for Run This Town. I got really happy because Run This Town was one of the songs I used to do on karaoke. It was myself and one of my good friends. She would do the Rihanna part and I would do the rap parts, and it was really, really good. So it really just brought me back to that time, and it was it was a really nice performance. It wasn't over the top and all this other, all this stuff, but it had the fireworks display. You had the crowd with their, the cell phones with the flashlights on and all that. It was really nice. But it wasn't over the top, but I didn't hate it. I actually liked it. There was a lot of people that were kind of like crapping on it. I went to a Twitch stream and people were crapping on it. I'm just sitting there just like, I don't know why y'all crap on it. It wasn't that bad. Like, I think one person made the comment about bad lip sync, and I'm just like, what? But I enjoyed it. So that's just me. I enjoyed it. And I really enjoy a halftime show.
Yeah, most of them are to attract. For people who don't know, it's really hard with all the pyrotechnics, all the lights and stuff like that, and the sound effects. Like some of the full bands that they do it live, but like, and she is singing some of it. I'm not saying it's 100% like Milli Vanilli style, but like it's a lot of it is background track stuff because you have to with that big of a room, the acoustics. There's too much going on for them to get it right. So. Anyone that's like, oh my God, that's just her. I mean, that happens a lot in these. So I don't want people to be like going after her for that. But Tim, what were your thoughts on it?
I thought it was a good performance. We did a bet on her hair color and most people did not. I think she came out in like black hair, like her normal hair. So a lot of people thought she would do something crazy because like the intro previews for her, she was wearing all sorts of different like greens and stuff. I think the main reason people hated on it was there was no cameo. I know you talked about this, Robbie, but just everybody expected the cameo. Like people were shouting, like, is it Drake or someone would be there? So I think the fact that no one came out with her, it's what's expected. And I think people automatically disliked it because of that, because they thought like it's not as good as other years when you had 3 or 5 stars. But she did a good job. And, I also heard talk that she's like a sellout because I think she said in 2019 she would never do the Super Bowl. But at the same time, that's like a lifetime opportunity. So it's hard to turn down. I don't fault her for that.
Who would ever turn down? I mean, that is so much publicity. You could not pay for that much publicity.
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm kind of glad she didn't bring out Kanye because that would have went badly. With the way Kanye has got fallen from grace, that would have went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be one cameo that maybe people wouldn't like. But I just felt like that's why people automatically disliked it, because they felt like it wasn't as good just because there wasn't a second or third star. But I don't I don't think it matters. I mean, it's so fast. Like
I think her star was her baby bump, right? I mean, I was
yeah,
talking about this earlier. I think that's like
exactly.
got to be one of the most Googled things in like a
I'm not
5-minute
gonna lie to you. I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
I didn't notice. Women
Really?
noticed though, just so you
Yeah,
know. Like
all women, like 100.
Yeah, right away.
Every girl or woman I talked to said they Googled it. So,
But also no dudes noticed. Like I texted people and they're like, really?
yeah,
Maybe no, less.
Like
Like
Robbie, when you and Josh brought it up, I said, wait, what? Like I was confused. I was like, wait, baby bump, what? I didn't notice no baby bump. But then again, like it's crazy because if I were to turn my camera on, you would see my TV is literally right here. So it's a big screen TV. It's not like it's a small TV. So it's not like it wasn't in a way where I could see. I couldn't see. I could see, but I didn't notice the baby bump. So I mean,
I think it was also the outfit choice that people were kind of feeling you wouldn't wear that unless you had she would usually wear something different, I think, in a normal situation. So I think that's what was cluing people in a little bit. But I did kind of notice, but it was interesting. It's cool. I'm sorry, we're watching live. We haven't even talked about this Wizards game at all, but it has started and there's 5:57 left in the first half here. The Wizards are currently up 8 points, and Phil Chenier is on, which I think is kind of cool that they have brought him back.
back.
They're interviewing him, and I really hate the lighting of this Golden State Warriors gym. It's really like hurting my eyes, like how bright it is. Like I wish that they I don't know. I guess it's like those new neon lights, but it definitely looks way different than like ours does on my TV. I don't know if it looks weird to you guys, but it's
yeah, I know what you mean on the NBC Washington.
yeah, it's too much.
It's like
white.
you gotta like
white
change your settings.
yeah, exactly. So it's just too much like light color. But anyway, I'm happy to see that the Wizards are playing well and they've had a really good week. We'll get into that in just a second, but I want to let these guys have their final takeaway on the Super Bowl. I'll start off with Champ. Anything else that you wanted to talk about with regards to any aspect of the Super Bowl?
The holding call was the proper call. People may hate it. I don't give a shit. It was the proper call. The man who was called for it even said, hey, I tugged on it. I was hoping I was going to get away with it. And he didn't. I'm sorry. Like, yeah, it was the most ill-timed penalty that could be ever called in a Super Bowl. But he committed the foul. It got caught. And there it is. But the coach, I love Nick Cipriani. I like Nick Cipriani's response to it. He said there were several plays out there that could have changed the course of the game. So he was proper to not blame that penalty on the fact that they lost the game. He realized
I feel like no coach is going to throw one player under the bus for the Super Bowl, though, right? Has anyone ever done that? Because I feel like that would be brutal. Like that person would be hated
honestly, like I think there might have been some coach. I think there might have been someone that would have said, "No, that was a bad call. They did da da da."
I mean, if it was really egregious, then maybe, but I don't know.
I mean, a lot of people say it was a ticky-tack call, but at the same time, they had to call it by the letter of the law. And
we always talk about we wanted to have consistency, right? Like there's so often that the same call isn't called at the beginning of the game and the end of the game in so many sports, and I think it's important. That in this case it was, and people are then on the other side, if they didn't call it, those people that are purists would be like, well, what the hell? What is pass interference? What is defensive holding? So I think it's important that they're consistent and I don't think that I want a referee making a call that changes the outcome of it, where it's all about me, like umpires do in baseball a lot of time. But in a situation like this, if it's the right call, then make it.
But I just want to put that out there. Like, hey, the call was made. It was the correct call, whether you love it or hate it. It was the correct call. The other thing is, had Philly won, Jalen Hurts was going to be MVP because Jalen Hurts put on a hell of a performance in his very first Super Bowl in only his third year in the league. That kid has a bright future. I'm hoping that he can keep this up going forward in his career. He had a hell of a game here with 2 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. I mean a passing touchdown. I mean, this kid is absolutely incredible, and it scares me because the Commanders have to play this kid twice a year for the next few years. That's what scares me. Is that he's only in his 3rd year and he's this good. He's only going to get better. And now that he's had this experience of playing in the Super Bowl, he came very close to being the MVP. The fact that the Eagles lost 2 games this regular season when he wasn't playing should show that he was more deserved. He was kind of more deserving of the MVP than Pat Mahomes, because it showed that his team was not the same team when he was not under center. But at the same, hey, I don't vote, so I don't have much of a say in that. But he had a great game. He had a very great game in his very first Super Bowl. You would think that a young man, only his 3rd year in the league, would have struggled. He had the 1 turnover, which was a scoop and score. But other than that, he stayed poised. He stayed confident. He stayed under control. And they only lost by 3. So he has a bright future. He's going to win a Super Bowl in his career. I can see it. I would love him to do it here in DC, but he's going to win a Super Bowl in his career, and it's going to happen sooner rather than later because he is just very, very good, and he has the weapons to back that up. So, But this is a really good Super Bowl. I really enjoyed it. This is one of the few Super Bowls I've actually enjoyed and watched it and just had fun. Even though I was by myself, I had fun watching it.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was originally going to have some people over, but, taking Zach to his first Caps game earlier in the day and having a long day, we just decided it wasn't worth trying to do too much in one day. And then we could put him to bed at halftime. It was kind of nice. What we did was we recorded it, started a little bit late, watched it, could fast forward through some parts of the game, rewatch some of the commercials that we actually cared about. If we thought it looked bad, we could just, fast forward through it. And then we caught up right at halftime. And the kids got to watch the halftime. We paused it. We went and put them to bed, came back and did the same thing till about 8 minutes left in the game. And then we were watching it live at 8 minutes, and it worked out pretty well. And it was kind of nice because if we had a party here, we couldn't have done that,
Also, big shout out to Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert showed up too. He's such an underrated tight end. Honestly.
Yeah, no, it was a really good game.
It's closest Dallas has been to a Super Bowl in a long time. So
I like it.
Thick burn.
Yeah. So, Tim, any final thoughts you have before we get into some of this basketball? By the way, the Wizards have just blown that whole lead, and now
we fixed it.
Only
no shock there.
Yeah, only a
no shock.
1 point lead. In fact, they had an opportunity to score, fumbles the ball. The other guy gets it. It pokes away to try to get a 3 for the Wizards. They miss it. Then they come down, play a good defensive effort, but then they get the rebound and score, and they make it 58-59. But it's a technical foul, I guess, on them. And Steve Kerr's pretty pissed. So we just got a technical foul. A free throw, 60-58, 3:32 left in this first half, but we'll get into it. It's Wizards ball as well. But Tim, final thoughts on the Super Bowl?
I just thought it was a great game. I was surprised that it was that high scoring because the reffing crew calls the most penalties, like Carl Scheffer's crew, and usually it's the under when they ref. So I thought maybe they would call a lot of penalties and stall some drives, but Kansas City was so good in the second half on offense. And yeah, I just thought it was kind of cool too, the Kelsey brothers story, and to see the Eagles Kelsey basically about to cry at the end, and then his brother hugs him and is like, "Don't worry, I'm happy at least." And then you can see on his face he's immediately cheered up by the fact that his brother won, Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, I don't know. I just thought that was a weird mix of emotion on the Eagles Kelsey's face. So just kind of a funny story, and I like seeing his mom get interviewed a lot too.
Yeah, it was cool. I liked that the owner had Hamlin and her next to him, at the game, which I thought was an
the neutral box in the middle of the field.
Right, an interesting trio, right? But I thought that was really cool, and yeah, I thought production quality was good. Fox didn't make any major blunders. I thought that I liked the graphics package. I thought it looked good. The commercials weren't amazing, but they weren't awful. Like, there's some good ones. And the halftime show I thought was good. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad like some of them have been. So I just thought overall it was a really nice experience, and it was a joy to watch coming home after a terrible performance by the Capitals
Yeah,
earlier in the day. So I'm happy that it
better than
wasn't.
that game.
Yeah, I'm happy it wasn't a dud for that too, because that would have been a bad sports day
Yeah,
for sure. But
and I didn't miss the Troy Aikman crew. I know a lot of people are like the Greg Olson crew isn't good enough for the Super Bowl, but I thought they were decent.
yeah, I thought they were
Kevin
fine.
Burkhardt and Greg Olson were really good on the call.
Yeah,
Greg Olson kind of flamed the fires of Eagles fans by questioning that holding call at the end. As a player,
definitely.
even with the rules expert in the booth telling them, "Hey, they called it by the letter of the law," Greg Olson was still like, "Nah, I don't think so." And I'm just like, "Yeah, he's definitely trying to get Eagles fans riled up by making them question that call," which I kind of found funny.
A lot of
Yeah.
former defensive players. I mean, he's a tight end, but a lot of the former defensive players were like, "I hate the call at that time," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's definitely a penalty."
Oh yeah, technical foul free throw here coming for Golden State now. And so the Wizards were definitely fouled and it went out of bounds, but they didn't call it, and so Porzingis was mad because he slapped him on the arm, and then he gave him a technical afterwards when he came over to him. So the Wizards have the ball. They are down by 1 now, and Bradley Beal needs 12 points to hit 15,000 in career. So that's an interesting stat. Let's get. I'm going to switch up our graphics package real quickly over here.